Hello and welcome back to McHale here in Ballinrobe. Previously we looked at the proper setup of the front and rear McHale mower followed by the McHale centre delivery rake. Today we would like to look at the F5500 fixed chamber baler followed by the high-speed Orbital wrapper and finishing off with the V6 750 baler. In the V6 baler we're going to look at ISOBUS control from the cab, which is a new feature on the machine. So now I'll hand you over to Shane, our service engineer who's in the farm workshop setting up the machine on the tractor at the moment.
Thank you, Mike. So now I'm just going to briefly talk you through the setup of a 5500 fixed chamber baler. First of all, most importantly is safety. So ensure that the handbrake is applied in the tractor is turned off and the key is out of the ignition. So we'll just talk through the general setup of the baler on the tractor. The most critical setting firstly is that the baler is always working or running in a level position. The easiest way to set up this is to ensure that the platform on the baler is level whilst it's hooked up to the tractor correctly. This can be altered via the bolts on the drawbar if needed. So moving into the back of our tractor where we will be connecting up our PTO shaft. So once our PTO shaft has been connected, ensure that there is no damage to the PTO guard. If there is, this will need replacing. Secondly, ensure that the lift arms of the tractor are out of the way of the PTO shaft, so whilst working they will not get caught or impede the working of the machine on the shaft. Hooking up our hydraulic hoses onto the back of our tractor is relatively straightforward. We need two double-acting hydraulic spools in the tractor cab. The red line is for our chamber, open and closed, and the blue line is for our pickup, our drop blower and our knives. You will see here there is a shut-off safety tap on the blue line. This is to ensure that our pickup does not drop down while transport on the road. We also have our 7-pin light connector, and we also have our loom going back to the control box in the cab of the tractor. So here on the front of the platform we have our density adjustment screw. So this handle is wound inwards to create more density pressure on the chamber. You will also notice we've got our safety tap here, which should always be used if you're going into the rear of the machine for anything to do with machine maintenance, machine cleaning, etc. So moving across here to the drive side of our fixed chamber baler, you will notice we've got an oil reservoir here. This oil reservoir has continuously been ran, so as soon as your PTO is running, the oiler is continuously oiling the chains of your baler. If you're baling dustier conditions and the operator wishes to increase the oil flow, then you can unscrew this little cap on the top of your pump, and your adjustment screws can be screwed inward to increase the oil flow going to a certain chain on the baler. Moving back along, you will see it's running on heavy duty chains. These chains will need adjusting occasionally throughout the season. The easiest or simplest solution to adjusting these is if you look down here, we've got our chain indicator here. So the bottom of this washer needs to be flush with the lint of the indicator. And this happens with all three chains on the dry side of our baler. This will indicate, these indicators are placed on each chain, and these in theory will give you the correct tension on your chain when needed. The only other thing I suppose on this side is we have a spare service kit within our toolbox. So you'll see here there is a set of couple of roll pins for our chopper knives. We have one or two chain links, a couple of spare pieces here within our toolbox if their parts are required. So just on our road wheels here, most importantly the wheel studs should be checked daily, and also just to ensure that the correct inflation is within the tires. They are inflated to 1.5 bar or 22 psi. So moving across here to the non-drive side of our baler, we go through some of the features within the side of the machine. So first and foremost, starting at the front, we may start at the front and work backwards. The height of your pickup wheels when you're setting it in the field. So McHale recommend between the tip of the tine to the floor, we recommend 25 to 30 millimeters of a distance between the tine and the floor. This can be adjusted via the holes here on your height adjustment wheel on your pickup. The crop roller, again, can be adjusted here for different variations of different heights of swarts. So again, can be extended or lengthened here on the chain, okay, for your crop roller. One thing to note, to be careful of, on your chain adjustment for your pickup as well, your pickup drive chain is within here. You have one on this side and you have one on the other side as well. Again, should be checked regularly and ensure that the chains are kept tight. On the bottom of your pickup here, you will notice where we have a compression spring at the rear of the pickup. This spring here is used to carry the weight of the pickup when it's in working mode. So again, this may need to be adjusted depending on the size of the tractor tire, the length, the height of the drawbar, etc. So to do that, you'll raise up your pickup, you will move your circle lip along the back of your ram, and this will decrease or increase the amount of pressure on the spring, which in theory will make your pickup lighter or heavier on the floor. So next thing to have a look at here is our rotor drive chain. With all balers, particularly new machines going out, this rotor chain will become excessively loose after the first 500 to 600 bales. You will notice this as the machine will be a lot harder to drive at the end of the machine, at the end of the bale, and it will also, machine will find it's easier to block at the end of the bale. To adjust this, you adjust the M16 nut, you compress this rubber buffer until you have approximately 70 millimeters between the top and the bottom of the washer on the rubber block here. Okay, so on the rest of this machine, just looking briefly here at our netting system, just check the belt for wear, tears, etc. There's an automatic adjuster on the back belt, and this front belt here can be adjusted here via this pulley. Just keep a wee bit of tension on it to engage the netter when needed. One or two other features on this machine. You'll see here we have a little lever here on the side of the door for our chamber full sensor. This lever is always in the down position when making silage and straw. It can be raised up to the upper position when baling hay. This will then allow less dense bales on the outside. So if you want to leave the bales breed slightly, or maybe if the crop isn't 100% ready to be baled, it will make the bale a little bit less dense on the outside if needed. The only other feature on this side of the machine is our automatic greaser. This tube of grease lasts approximately 300 bales. Every 300 bales, the operator will be alerted within the cab. So it just reminds the operator that the machine is due a new tube of grease every 300 bales. This greaser greases all the bearings on the drive and non-drive side of the machine. Okay, so that's a brief talk through our setup on the 5500. I will now talk to you about installing a roller net, and we'll then talk about going to the control box and going to the field. So now we're up on the platform of the baler. I'm just going to talk you through how to install a roll of net correctly into the netting system. One thing to be aware, maybe if the machine is approximately 3 or 4 seasons old, is that it is good practice to lubricate both pivot points of the net knife. So your pivot points are at each end of your rubber roller. So it's good practice, bit of WD-40 at the start of every season, just to keep them lubricated, and it won't create any issue with your net knife during that season. So just showing you how to net the netter unit correctly. So once your roll of net is centralized correctly in your netter box, approximately pull up a meter of net. So the net is fed off from the top of your roller net. So pull up roughly a meter of net. It goes behind your first spreader bar. It goes over the top of your second spreader bar. And on the side here, then you push down on this handle. By pushing down this handle, it will separate the steel roller away from the rubber roller. Okay? So you feed up your net underneath the first steel roller. It then goes over the top of the rubber roller, and then goes down between the rubber roller and the second steel roller. So you can feed down approximately 6 inches of net or so, and you then squeeze up your steel bar again. This will compress the 2 steel rollers in between the rubber roller, and that'll keep your net tight. Then close down the hood, top of your netting unit, and your roll of net is installed correctly. So we'll now go back into the tractor cab, and I'll talk you through the control unit. So now we're back in the tractor cab. I'm going to talk you through the Wizard Plus control unit. As with all control units, it is critical that it has a decent 12-volt current power supply. This is coming directly from the battery or through the D-plug in the tractor cab. So again, with all control units, when they're powered on, they're always in manual mode. So they'll have to put into automatic mode while functioning the machine. A couple of the features here is our bale count, customer A, bale count, our battery voltage, and our knife pressure. You'll also see down here, we've got a function for our knives up and down, and our drop floor up and down. So any one of these buttons is pressed whilst we're moving the spool in the tractor cab for a pickup. So we're diverting the oil from our pickup to our knife or a drop floor. This button here is a manual netter button. So again, if the last bale in the field isn't completely full, this button can be pressed and the bale will be netted and can be ejected from the chamber. So in the menu of this control unit, you press the down arrow, keep it pressed. This brings up our lube dose, our bale total for customer A, and our grand total. So as we spoke about earlier, the control box counts down from 300 bales down to 0, and every 300 bales it will alert the operator in the cab that the machine needs to be re-greased and top up the oiler. Customer total 7, which will stay on for customer A, and our grand total, which is obviously set with the machine, which cannot be changed. So next menu down is you have your net delay button. So what this means is from when the beeper goes off, there is 2 seconds before the net is fed in. The next one down, you have got your contrast. Next function down is for your date and time. So our next menu down here is our technician menu. So in this menu here, this is for all our service engineers, technical diagnostics, technical setup, etc. So we press the escape button. This will bring us back to our home screen. This is back to the home or the working screen of the baler whilst we're working it in the field. So I'll now pass you over to Mike and we'll go back to the field where we'll be running the F5500 in grass in a few moments.
We're now going to show you the F5500 baler working after setup in the workshop. So coming down the row here behind me, we've got the F5500 baler on the 130 horsepower tractor. This baler is fitted with a 50 knife chopper, and today we're operating with the camless pickup. So as you can see, as the baler goes by, it leaves a lovely clean job of the ground, picking the crop. You've got 6 rows of tines, bringing the crop up into the big diameter, heavy duty spiral rotor and into the chamber itself. All 5500s are fitted with automatic greasing and automatic oiling. So while the machine is operating, it's constantly oiling and greasing the roller bearings. The netter system is preset, so it spreads the net nice and evenly on the bale. As the baler travels down the field, it picks the crop effortlessly and it's a very smooth running machine. The machine we're working on here today has the oversized 520 tires, which is one of 3 options that we supply with the machine. All our balers are on an 8 stud axle with the option of brakes. The standard pickup is a 5-tine bar, but as I say, the baler we're working with today is a camless machine. The 5500 baler would account for about 60% of our fixed chamber business. This baler is sold in 56 different countries and is renowned for its reliability and ability to bale any type of crop. Very simple machines, can operate, as I say, at 100 horsepower, very simple to use in the cab. On the 54 and 5500 you've got the simple monitor, and on the 5600 model you've got a fully automatic cycle which will open and close the back door during working. On the 5600 model you've got the 25 knife option as standard. So as you can see, we get a nice uniform square edge bale, net out to the edge and good and solid all the way through. So now we'll go over to the farm workshop where Connor will talk us through the Orbital wrapper.
Thanks, Mike. Now we're going to go through the setup of the McHale Orbital wrapper. So it's hitched on here direct to the hitch of the tractor. Make sure that it's set up level so it'll work at its best. You have your feed hydraulic hose here. Tractor should have a minimum of 45 litres per minute. And you also have the free flow return that needs to be direct to the back end of the tractor. This machine can be used on load sensing or open center depending on the tractor type you have. You also have your double acting spool here for your drawbar off your machine for putting it into road and work position. You also have the 7-pin plug for your lights, and then you have your 37-pin socket that connects to the control box in the cab that we'll go through later on. We then move on here to the wheels of the machine. These are on the 480 wheels, this machine. Make sure your tire pressure is set okay and make sure you check wheel nuts daily. Then we move on to the wrapper section of the machine. So there's grease points here on the rollers. Make sure that your bobbins are running free. These bearings should be greased daily. We now move on to the wrapper section, the dispenser section. As you can see here, you have your dispenser here with the aluminium rollers. You can load your plastic in here. Make sure these rollers are running smooth and free, and make sure that there's no tack built up from plastic on them. The dispenser caps here as well, they should be taken off once a year and just grease the gears inside. We'll go through this when we go out to the field and how to load the plastic. So on the outside of the machine here as well, you have your external tip switch button, so you can put up your rear tip up and down for loading plastic. You also have your index button for rotating your wrapping ring half a revolution, and you also have the switch for turning on your external light. Then here you have your transport lock, so you can move this. At the moment it's in work position, so you move it into the transport position here for bringing the machine to the field. You also have your canister here that contains your operators and spare parts manual. And now we'll head off into the cab of the tractor and we'll go through the control box setup. Okay, so now we're going to go through the control unit for the McHale Orbital wrapper. So as you can see here on the main screen, you have your manual, you have your 8 revolutions of wrap, then you have your number of bales. You're working on customer A at the moment, so this goes from A to J and they're all resettable. And then you have your voltage here. This is very important to keep above 12 volts at all time. Then on the main screen here you have your menu button, your automatic and manual function. The machine is ran on automatic. Then you have your functions here for your lift arm up and down, your auto start button. You have your clamp arm in and out. You have your load arm up and down, and then you have your rear tip buttons. So also here on the main screen you have your automatic function for the auto paddle on the lift arm, and then you have 1 or 2 rolls of plastic, whether you have 1 or 2 rolls to use on the machine, and then you can rotate your bale or your rollers. So then you can go into the menu setting here on a machine setup 1. You have your adjustable layers of plastic here, so you can 8 revolutions is 4 layers of plastic. Then you have your auto tip on or off, so we'll set that to on. Then you have your automatic cycle, you can have it on or off, so that's set it on. Then you have your bale size, goes from medium, large to extra large. So a standard fixed chamber baler will be medium. Then you go to your film caps, they're set to on or off. We have them set on here. Then you have your slow speed, index speed. This can be adjustable as well. So when you press your button at the back for loading your plastic, you can change the speed of that. And then you have your remote option. We do not have a remote on this machine, so we won't be using it today. Then machine setup 2. You have your float position for your lift arm. So when after loading the bale, the lift arm goes down, you can adjust the height this is set at from 1 to 5, or you can have it turned off like we will have today, so let it down to the ground. Then you have your lift arm up speed, so this is adjustable as well. Then you have your roll before wrap, so you can roll the bale. If you have a badly shaped bale, you can, the minute it hits the rollers, you can roll that bale, and it just improves it to wrap the bale. Then you have your roll after wrap, so if you're working in dusty conditions, you can roll the bale so the tails of the plastic stick into the bale better. Then you have your tip pause speed, so once the tip arm tips down, so if you had a side tip on this machine, you could increase this speed so the bale can roll onto the side tip. Then you have your tip down speed and your tip up speed. These are both adjustable from 1 to 10. Then on the third menu then, you have your bale counts. They're all, you can reset them all. So you go into A, you can reset it here. So then you can have all your bale counts from your A to J. So all the different customers that you're working with, you can have all the bale counts saved. And then at the very end, you have the grand total, which is 0 on this machine. And then in the fourth option then, you have your screen settings, so you can set it up for daytime or nighttime, so you can brighten the screen or adjust the contrast and all that. And then you have your time and date settings here. They are all adjustable as well. Then you have your volume settings, so the beeper on the control box and also the button switches. You can adjust the sounds on them. So then the final option here is the technician setup. So this is only used by McHale service technicians and is pin protected. So we'll go back to the main screen again and we can go off and do a bit of wrapping.
Connor has now joined us in the field, so we're going to walk towards the Orbital here where we're going to load the 2 rolls of film ready to go. So by simply opening the rear panel here, it gives you access to the 2 750mm dispensers that we've seen earlier. Using the handle, he'll open his dispenser, which latches into position. It comes with 6 storage holders as standard. And you load the roll onto the collar, which holds the roll in position and simply loads as shown there. So there is a method of taking the film from the roll, feeding it through the dispenser rollers, ready to apply. So we always let the dispenser tight against the roll to give you the stretch on the film. So to close the door, you press the index button on the side of the machine. So the dispensers change position. Both rolls are loaded from the one side. So once again, he levers the dispenser to the open position. With this machine, with the film brake sensors, should one roll break or run out, the machine will automatically slow down to half speed and use one roll. Same situation if you've only got one roll of film, the machine will operate with one roll of film. The machine will alter the overlap on the bale depending whether it's operating with 1 or 2 rolls. So when starting the film off, we simply pull the film from the dispenser and fit it into the slot on the chassis of the machine to start. And again with the second roll, we just pull it from the dispenser and slot it into the chassis of the machine to start the wrapping cycle. As an option on the rear of this machine, we can fit a side tip damper. The Orbital wrapper is the fastest round bale wrapper that we produce as a company. It's a very high output machine. You're looking at an output between 80 and 90 bales per hour on 4 layers and 70 to 80 bales per hour on 6 layers. So Connor's going to work now and pick up some bales. Some of the advantages of this machine is that it's offset, so you're following the baler in the same direction. As well as that, while one bale is loaded on the machine, it will pick up the second bale. So you've got the whole machine operating together. This machine can be operated on standard hydraulics or load sensing. The Orbital wrapper is designed around a lot of features that you get on the Fusion baler. You've got your vertical wrapping ring with 2 750mm dispensers which evenly apply the film to the outside of the bale. This is a nice design in that the film rotates around the bale, so the bale rotates consistently all the time. As we approach the next bale, we can pick the bale up ready. So as you drive in, the bale presses against a little bar which gives it the signal to load onto the wrapping table. As you can see, the inside roller drops down, so it makes the transfer height very low. Where the output is in this machine is that you're following in line behind the baler. While one bale is wrapping, you can quite easily drive forward and pick up your second bale. As well as that, your drawbar operates hydraulically, so you can move it left to right to help your alignment. The hydraulic arms come out fully, gather all the film, and it gently drops the bale to the ground. So once again, look at the way the machine transfers the bale. The inside roller drops right down, so it keeps the transfer height very low when operating on steep ground. This machine can be operated on standard hydraulics or load sensing. So now I'm going to pass you back to Shane in the farm workshop to have a look at the V6 baler.
So thank you, Mike. So I'm now going to speak you through the setup on the variable chamber range of balers. The most critical thing is that the baler is left level whilst in the working position. The easiest way to do this is to eye up the platform. Once your platform is level, this ensures that your baler is also level in the working position. So moving down to the hookup onto the back of our tractor, starting with our PTO shaft. Ensure that our PTO shaft is in good condition and that there is no defects on the shaft itself. When we're setting our lift arms, it is critical that our lift arms are in the raised position up out of the way of the PTO shaft so they don't impede it during work. Onto the back of our hose setup, we need 2 double acting spools from the tractor. So on our red spools here, we have for the door double acting, and the blue line is for our pickup, drop lower and knives. You will also see there's a safety tap on the blue line. This tap is to ensure that the pickup stays in the up position whilst in transport. The most critical setting on the back of the machine here is the yellow line, which is the free flow back to tank. This machine will not work if it doesn't have a free flow back to tank. It cannot work through a spool which is put in the float position. We also have a coupler here for our brake line. This machine has been fitted with hydraulic brakes, which is an option on the V6, V8 range of balers. The 7-pin lighting connector, and we also have our loom, which is going directly back to the control box in the tractor cab. So moving along here to the front side of our machine, we have the setup for our pickup and for our crop roller. So when you're setting up your pickup, these are your depth adjustment wheels here. So these can be set to keep the correct height of the pickup off the floor. We recommend roughly the tine is 30 millimeters off the floor when set correctly. Onto our crop roller. Again, our crop roller can be adjusted here via the chain here at the back. And again, for heavier or lighter swarts, this crop roller can be adjusted up or down. So now I'll talk you through the lubrication system on the variable chamber balers. So starting first with the oiling side of the lubrication system, the reservoir holds approximately 3 litres of chain oil, and again this chain oil can be adjusted if the operator is in drier material. He may wish to have more lubricant on his chains, then he can adjust this setting here on the pump. So to screw in these keys, you will get more oil. If you desire less oil, then you can screw them out. So again, just moving across here then to our greasing system. This machine is fitted with the optional auto greaser, 1200 bale intervals, again on the automatic greaser, and this is for the bearings in the drive side of the machine. We also have manual greasing blocks, which are for the pivot points. So say your tension rams, your door rams, your pivot points of the machine, we recommend to grease those every 300 bales or daily. And you have 2 blocks on either side of the machine, via both left and right hand side. So onto our chain adjustment. The indicator here is set correctly here for your chain adjustment. So we recommend that the washer here is flush with the top of the marker and your chains are tight. Again, your chains should be checked occasionally to ensure correct performance of the machine. So just moving down to our little toolbox here. Inside in our toolbox we have a small service kit. So it comes with a spare cam bearing, 1 or 2 chain links, a couple of roll pins, etc., just to keep you going in the event of any emergency which is needed. We also have a little top-up container of oil. This contains UTT oil, which is universal transmission oil, and this is needed to top up the oil reservoir on your net or stretch pump if needed. Okay. Just again on our wheels, your wheel studs should be checked on a daily basis, and again we do recommend to run them at 1.5 bar or 22 psi. Okay, so moving across here onto our non-drive side, we'll have a quick look through our non-drive side, and again we'll talk you through briefly on that. So the most critical thing on your non-drive side is your rotor drive chain. Particularly on new machines, you will see that this machine or this chain will be very loose after the first 500 to 600 bales. You will also find that the baler will block very easily. So it is very important that after 500 to 600 bales, this roller chain is kept tight. We recommend that you set the rubber buffer to 70 millimeters between the two washers. So just have a quick look here at our pickup unit. So inside here, our pickup unit is carried on the two springs on these two rams. So we have a ram on both left and right hand side. It is essential that there is pressure on these springs as the machine is in working mode. So if you have to adjust this, you can raise your pickup and the circlip can be moved forward or back to suit the pressure which is required on the spring for the pickup ram. So again, just briefly on the non-drive side, just check the condition of your belts, ensure that they are good and that there is no tear or that they are not loose as well, that there is good adjustment on them and that they are engaging the drive of the netter and the moving roller. The only other small options on this side features is to check again, you've got your manually greasing blocks like on your drive side for your door ram, your tension pivot points, etc. You have two of these blocks on this side of the baler. Again, should be greased every 300 bales or daily. So we'll just move across now and we'll just show you the setup of fitting the correct procedure to fit the roller net to the baler. So now we're up here on top of our platform. I'm now going to talk you through fitting the roller net correctly into the netter unit on the machine. So roll off approximately 30 centimeters of net, just to ensure that the net is actually coming off the bottom of the roll, okay? So when the roll is put in, that the net is coming off the bottom side of the roll. So once you have approximately 30 centimeters of net, feed the net down in, put it on top between your rubber roller and your steel roller. Roll your rubber roller in, 2 or 3 turns, and roughly feed down approximately 30 centimeters of net down into the netting chamber. Once you have that done, roll in your roll of net, pull down your tension bar. The only other thing to ensure is that your net guides on your top and bottom here, that there's approximately 8 to 10 millimeters of a gap so the roll can move left and right when needs be. These guide plates are on both your left and right hand side. So that's our net roll fitted into our netter unit, and we'll now go into the cab and we'll talk about setting up the control unit in cab. Right, so now we're back in the tractor cab. We're just going to have a brief run through the control unit here. First and foremost, like any control unit, it needs to have a decent 12 volt current supply coming through it. Okay, so on your control unit, we'll have a quick look through the menu buttons here. Okay, so you press menu. The first screen here on your control unit is your bale setup screen. So we'll enter this screen. So we're on bale setting A. There was 5 or 6 different type of presets, which basically all that does is it saves the memory of the chosen bale which you're making into the control unit. So today we're on bale setting A. The inner diameter is set at 100 centimeters. The outside diameter is set at 125 centimeters. So if you want to adjust these, you move your arrow here across and you can plus or minus to the preset setting which you require. So scrolling across, you move down here to your next menu. This is your inner core density. Okay, so this again is set from 1 to 10. Here it's set on number 4. Plus or minus again will increase or decrease the setting which you require. Moving across is your outer core density. So again, this is set at number 7. Again, can be chosen from 1 to 10, whichever is required. Next setting down is the amount of net layers which you're applying to the bale. On this bale, we're applying 3.5 revolutions of net, and be it a 2-foot bale or a 5-foot bale, the control box will put on the preset 3.5 layers of net, or whatever is chosen by the operator. On the next menu across here then is your net stretch figure. Again, going from 1 to 10, 1 being the minimum stretch, 10 being the more increased rate of stretch applied to the net as it's being applied on the bale. Okay, so you come back out of this menu. The next menu here, you have your baler setup menu. So you press this button and scroll across, and you enter this menu here. This setting here is for net, or if there is a twine applicator applied to the machine, then you would choose this setting. So obviously this machine is net, so we're fitting it on the net setting. Next menu down is your bale size factor. This is a little bit like a fine-tuning setting for your bale size. So this can be altered if needed afterwards. You have your net delay, so set at 2 seconds. So when the beeper goes off in the control unit, there is 2 seconds before the net is fed into the chamber to net the bale. And your next setting down is your net meterage. So if you were applying, if you were, say, maybe going out to a customer and you're baling straw, you can actually meter the net, how much has been put on, and you can charge them for that net being applied. So next couple of menus down, you've got your pre-warning beeper, which is set at 99% in this case. This can be increased or decreased to whatever the operator wants. So what this is, when the bale gets to 94% full, it will beep on the control unit. It will alert the operator that the bale is nearly full and it's time to be slowing down. Your next setting here is your bale shape setting, or your bale shape sensors. So what this is back in your main screen, up over the baler, you have a little diamond, and the more arrows you have moving toward your left or to the right tells you which side of the chamber needs to be filled. The next setting down here then, on the bottom, you have the increments in which your bale is being made to, whether it's in centimeters or it can be changed to feet and inches. Okay. So the next menu down here is our bale total menu. So we can enter this menu here. This gives us a number of presets which the control unit can store as it's making bales throughout the day. So we can save our bale totals for the customers which we've been through the day. As you move down through this menu here, you come down here to this little oil bucket. So this is set at 300 bales and it counts down from 300. So when it gets to 0, it alerts the operator that the machine will require greasing and topping up of oil in the oil lubrication system. Okay, and the next setting down here is your bale total menu, which cannot be changed. It is the grand total of bales which the machine has made through its lifetime. So moving across here to our next menu, we can enter in this one. This is basically, I suppose, the control box setup as such. So you've got your date and time, you've got the contrast and the brightness of your screen, and you've also got the volume which needs adjusting as well. The only other setting down here is your technician setting, which is used for diagnostic purposes from your service engineers. So we'll just go back to our main menu here now on the main screen, and we'll have a quick brief look through the different settings and the icons on the control unit. So back on our main screen, you'll be looking at this button here. This is the manual netter button on your baler. So when you come to the last bale in the field, you can manually press this button and it will automatically engage the netting cycle. The bale will automatically net, cut the net, and the operator can then eject the bale from the chamber. The next setting here is if you manually need to cut your net. So this button can be pressed and the net knife will manually close to cut the net wrap as it's going on the bale. Next button here, down here, you've got your drop floor button. So if a blockage occurs, this button here is pressed. You then move your hydraulic spool for your pickup reel whilst the button is pressed, and you will drop down your floor down to unblock the machine. Again, press the button, pull your hydraulic lever the other way to bring your floor back up to the working position. Next button is your chopper knife button. So this engages and disengages the chopper knives in your chopping unit. So again, like the drop floor button, keep your knife button pressed, engage your spool for your pickup up and down, and your knives will move in and move out of the chopping unit. And this next button down here, if you just press this button and keep it pressed, it drops the density off the density clock, so it just drains or drops off any density pressure which is in your density circuit. This is our Expert Plus 3 control unit on the V6750. I'm now going to pass you over to Jor, who's going to talk you through the ISOBUS control unit on the V6750.
Thank you, Shane. So here we are at the V-Series baler to have a look at the ISOBUS terminal. So here we have the ECU mounted on the side of the machine, your wiring loom up to the back of the tractor. So here we have our ISOBUS connector that connects directly into the ISOBUS terminal on the back of the tractor. And now we'll hop into the tractor cab and have a look at the display within the tractor. So here we are in the tractor cab with the machine connected to the ISOBUS terminal within the tractor. You can also connect the machine to any other ISOBUS terminal that you have, and McHale also gives the option of 2 ISOBUS terminals, a 7-inch and a 12-inch display. If we click on the implement control here, it brings up the display of the machine, and you can go through the menu and has all the controls of the machine here, as we've seen already from Shane. So we can go back to the field now where Shane has set up and is going to go making a few bales. Shane has now joined us with the V6 750 variable chamber baler. This is one of two V6 balers that we build. We also build the V6 740, which is a non-chopper baler, and we have a bigger range, which is the V8. So this machine operates with a 2.1 meter pickup, running on the standard 5-tine bar pickup, feeding into the large diameter rotor with 15 knives in place. The V6 can produce a bale from 0.6 up to 1.68, or any size in between. The machine we're showing today has a single belt. It's an option. We can run with either 3 belts or 1 single belt. It's about 50-50 in production. The single belt is probably more suited where you're doing a lot of chopping or maybe doing whole crop or finer crop. So now he's applying 2.5 revolutions of net to the bale. And as you can see, even in green crop, it makes a nice uniform bale. The machine itself comes on a 500 22.5 tyre as standard on an 8-stud axle with the option of brakes, hydraulic or air. These machines have a huge appetite, a massive intake, and even there at the moment it's baling off a 30-foot row of grass. As I say, we also produce a range of V8 balers, which is the 940 non-chopper and the 950 chopper baler. These will make a bale slightly bigger, up to 1.9 meters. These machines are controlled by the expert control box in the cab or through ISOBUS, which means you can adjust the bale size, bale density, and the amount of net you put on the bale, all from the tractor cab. The control box has a very informative screen with a large graphic display, which makes it very easy for the driver to see what's going on while he's baling and make any necessary adjustments that he needs to. So the V6 range of balers are very high performance balers. We'll now apply 2.5 revolutions of net in the chamber before we drop the bale out. And as you can see, a nice uniform solid bale right from the very centre. I hope you learned a little bit about the setup of McHale product. I hope you found it beneficial, and thank you very much for your time.